Here we have a child who in the Republic of Ireland in 2025 and 24 and 23 and 22 and 21 lived a life of absolute pain and suffering, with a condition that for the entirety of his life was treatable with the right intervention and the right surgery. And he didn't get that surgery. And it's not about resources or money. The state has the resources. The state has the money. This is a very wealthy country in terms of the amount of money that the government has available to it, at least in terms of the money that can be sourced from corporate tax revenue and elsewhere. It is his suffering was a result, to my mind, and I'm sure there are people in government who would dispute this, but to my mind, his suffering is entirely a result of state incompetence. I'm not even going to say state callousness or state cruelty, because I don't think there's anyone working in the government who would consciously, or the civil service, who would consciously set out to let a little boy suffer. I don't think that's the case at all. But state incompetence, the state's inability to marshal its resources in such a way to provide a young child with treatment that is desperately needed. And now he has died, and whatever the cause of his death was in the end, he's died after a life of needless pain, needless suffering. And I think that's something we should reflect on as a society, because it is the job of the people running the countries there to make sure that doesn't happen, right? That is their job. Their job is to make sure that the resources of the state, the money we all hand over to them in taxes every month, their job is to manage that money and make sure that the country is well run and people get the help they need. That is the purpose of you. That is why you're there. That's why you go into politics. That's what you run for election saying that you will do. You all failed. Every single one of you failed. Failed this kid. And it wasn't the doctors who failed him. It wasn't the nurses who failed him. It was the state and the people running the state. And I'm not pinning it on Simon Harris and his broken promises in that regard. I'm not blaming it on Micheál Martin. The whole shaggin' lot of you failed, including, I would argue, the opposition politicians who highlighted his case, but never were able to identify themselves the things that could be fixed. I think it's just.
But I
awful.
also think, John, that Simon Harris did specifically say that scoliosis treatment, that no child would wait. It was part of his election speak. He banged that drum himself. He made himself. He laid out his stall and he said that scoliosis would be addressed, and it hasn't been. And so, I think that if you do that, you face or accept the consequences of your failure to deliver on that message. So, yeah, okay, you don't want to personalize it too much, but I think that if you're a family member or of this little boy, or you're somebody who's still waiting with a child who may also, have the similar situations, like, you're entitled to feel extremely angry personally with Simon Harris, since he went about making your situation a personal drum that he beat, and then he seemed to just walk away from it.
I think that is true. And I think this is where I never like to personalize this, but people like it when I personalize it. I don't know why they do, but in this case, I think it has to be personalized. Like, I don't think it speaks well of you as a politician when you make a promise like that and then aren't publicly invested every day in making sure it gets delivered. Like, when you make somebody else's crisis your electoral soundbite, you stand on television and say, I'm going to fix this problem, and you don't do it, you're giving people false hope. You're standing in front of them and you are giving people false hope, which is just about the cruelest thing you can do. Imagine walking in to the parents of a sick child and knowing that that child is almost certainly going to die and saying, actually, I think he'll be fine. It's a really cruel thing to do, because it delays people's acceptance. It prevents them from seeking other options. It prevents them from maybe looking abroad. If you stand in front of them and say, I'm going to fix this problem, and then you don't do it, you are you are doubling their hurt. And to do it for votes, essentially, to do it, and this is the thing, and it ties into everything I say about the Irish government on this podcast and in my writing and elsewhere, which is this false fucking compassion. You go out there and you say, we care more than you do. We care more about Gaza than you do. We care more about housing than you do. We care more about the world. We care more about the sick little children. We're good people because we care. That is the message. We care. And when you have the opportunity to deliver on that care and actually do something useful, you don't do it. You don't do it. You make a false promise, then you go away and then you pretend you care about something else. No, I mean, it's the kind of thing that you should be run out of office for.